Always coaching to win. And look, every decision that I make won't always be the popular one, and that's part of this job.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Foxborough Rush. I'm George Balekji. He's Travis Thomas. That is the voice of Jerod Mayo after the Patriots' 28-22 loss to the Rams, dropping them to 3-8 on the season. Trav, I'm going to be straight up here. Yes, Jerod Mayo definitely coaches to win, but coaching is the reason they haven't won. What we saw in the Patriots' loss to the Rams is the difference between a good team with a great head coach and a bad team with a coach that's still learning. It was the details. It was winning within the margins. It was the lack of adjustments for the Patriots, especially defensively, what they were doing with Christian Gonzalez and what they were doing blitzing Matt Stafford and unable to stop the run compared to the Rams, who got off to a slow start and scored on 4 of their 5 following drives. And then late in the game, when execution had to be had, the Rams did it, at least took off enough clock to put the pressure on the Pats. And as we saw, that's a talk about the punt. I'm more ticked off about kicking a field goal when you're down 21-10.
Sure.
And you're on LA's 19 and it's just 4th and short, that you settle for the field goal instead of going for it and just making it a true one-score game. But the Rams came into Foxborough and displayed what they did with a 3rd-string right tackle, a struggling offensive line, a team coming off a loss where they were dominated. They showed the difference between elite coaching and a great roster. I'd say more of good than new coaching and a bad roster.
That was beautifully said. In fact, I wish you had asked the original question, because that was a dumbass question. I mean, do you coach to win? What is that? I mean, hello, you play to win the game. Herm Edwards told you that years ago. George, I watch you work hard and prep for this show. Never have I ever, nor will I ever, ask you, are you hosting to win? Are you doing the best hosting job you can on Foxborough Rush, bruh? I mean, that was a dumb question. Here's the truth, okay? And you just laid it out. When you watch an elite coach like Sean McVay, think about last week, George. We saw a moron head coach in Matt Eberflus. What happened? The elite coach, you were close, but no cigar. You need some more horses. The moron coach, 9 sacks. Patriots look the best they've looked all year. So what's that tell us? Jerod Mayo is somewhere in between, and that's okay. He's not elite. Maybe he can become it. I don't think so, but maybe he can. But one thing we know for sure, he's not a moron either. So the truth, as always, George, is somewhere in between. That's what the Patriots ran into against the Rams.
Look, we saw Sean McVay's on top of his game. Matt Stafford is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And let's dive into the numbers on this one. So 28-22 is the final. And what we saw Matt Stafford finish with, he completes 67% of his passes, 295 yards, 4 touchdowns with a QB rating of 142, while Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp combined for 13 catches, 229 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. Now, at half, we saw a 14-10 game. It's close. And right as Fox is flashing a graphic of Matt Stafford against the blitz, showing he's 6 for 7, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns, what does DeMarcus Covington do on the first play of the second half as the Rams started with the ball? Send 7. Matt Stafford finds Cooper Kupp, who breaks a tackle, really doesn't break a tackle, just gets by the defender, and goes 69 yards for the score. And in the blink of an eye, it's 21-10 at that point. This Rams team is really good. Their record doesn't show it, as they're now just 5-5 after this win. But they got off to a bad start because their offensive line is absolutely decimated. Last week, they bring in 2 starters back, but that's a Dolphins team that got their pass rush healthy. So they get handed an L, and you know what? That's a Dolphins offense that can score. Again, the Patriots continue to put consistent drives together, find success offensively, and just they are yet to be a quality team. Caught the Bengals at the right time. Beat the Jets, who stink, and beat the Bears, who are absolutely awful, as we see from all season long. Quality team, really good head coach. The difference in this one, and to highlight Drake Maye, 30 for 40, completed 75% of his passes, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns. That game-sealing interception on the attempt to Pop Douglas, also strip sack for a fumble. But that one is on an offensive line that just can't pick up a basic stunt. We've seen this since week 3 of the New York Jets, but a bad offensive line still is the third combo we saw of the Vidarian Lowe, Michael Jordan, Ben Brown, Mike Onwenu, DeMontre Jacobs. This Rams team's really good. This Patriots team still have to be patient, Trav. It's all about next year and the year after.
I tell you what, they got lucky on that fumble, too, because Drake Maye got absolutely blasted, bro. He got blasted. He got up kind of slow, but obviously we've seen he's a tough kid. But they could have got that kid decapitated on that play. As far as the last interception, obviously, you know, you want that one back. I mean, he threw, I told you during the game, it felt like there were 10 Rams standing there waiting on that ball to go up in the air, and he threw it. But at the same time, I appreciate this kid's heroics at the end of games. He's trying to do everything we can. We've seen him bail him out before. Remember the Titans game and others. So he tries to do everything he can at the end of a game. He's still a rookie, and he has no weapons to speak of.
No.
I know Kendrick Bourne was better. I'm sure we'll get into that. Pop Douglas is okay. But my God, I mean, you brought these two up, and you said what they combined for. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp went absolutely silly in this game. Nacua, 7 grabs, $123 and a touchdown. Kupp, 6 grabs, 106, 2 tutties, one of them a backbreaker. I mean, what are you going to do? That, to me, that is a difference. I know we talk about the coaching. That's some of this. But Stafford played well. So did Drake Maye. McVay made adjustments. Mayo didn't make many, but it wasn't the worst coach game ever. I actually think the biggest discrepancy in this game was the weapons. When you see Puka, when you see Kupp and what they did in this game, I'm telling you, not that all that other stuff doesn't matter, but that was the biggest difference to me. There are no game breakers, no game changers on the Patriots to speak of. And they did everything right to a certain extent. Time of possession was there. I mean, they protected a little bit better than they have this season. It wasn't perfect as we talk about that Drake Maye fumble, but at the same time, it wasn't terrible. I mean, they did a lot of things right in this game. I just think those weapons on the outside that the Rams possess and the Patriots are not even close to was the difference. That's what stood out to me, George, watching this game.
Yeah, and I know I said it was 4th and 2, Rams 19. No, it was 4th and goal, Rams 2. Patriots were down 21-10. They kick a field goal. Second down, third down, Ramondre Stevenson runs. That basically went 2 yards in a cloud of dust.
Pretty much.
That when throwing the ball has been such a strength. And go with it. Next trip down, they get in the red zone. This is where we see the creativity we've been asking for.
Yeah.
When it's 28-13, next time they're in the red area, and they go with the play action pass, tackle eligible, unbalanced offensive line, throws off the Rams defense. Vidarian Lowe, wide open touchdown. But that's a play. You're calling it in that spot. That's a play you had locked and loaded, and you've run in practice time and time again, which Jerod Mayo said. They saw Vidarian Lowe catch it 3 separate times. They go with it. When it's 21-10 and it's 4th and less than a yard on the Rams too, call that play. Instead of settling for the field goal and then hoping you get into the opportunity later in the game, which credit to them, they got to.
They did.
It's just being unopportunistic. And to the point of how Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua went off, we saw Christian Gonzalez continue to play on the outside as a boundary corner, cover the boundary receiver. And it worked early on. What did Sean McVay start doing? Motioning Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua inside to be running routes from the slot position.
That's right.
You need to have Christian Gonzalez follow one of those two. Because as teams have done all year, they're going to pick on the Marcus Joneses. They're going to pick on the Jonathan Joneses and the deeper cornerback group you have on this team with their lack of size and lack of just elite skill. You have an elite coverage corner. You need to put them on the elite pass catchers. For what two guys did for the Rams, the Patriots need 5-6 different pass catchers. Now, Kendrick Bourne was great after being benched. He had 5 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. Hunter Henry has been steady as he's been, averaging 10 yards a catch, 6 for 63. Kayshon Boutte, Austin Hooper, Demario Douglas, all piled in as well to add to this passing game as threats. But again, it was on the defense on this one. The Rams, Trav, faced 8 third downs. Just 8. And on their first scoring drive, I think it was 9 plays, 80 yards. It was really 8 plays, 80 yards they went. 7 of the 8 plays, they had a success, which means they either got at least half of the yards to go or faced with a third down, which was very rare, they got enough to move the sticks. But there was just no pushback from the Patriots.
Yeah.
The running backs averaged 5.4 yards per carry between Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. And the Rams as an offense averaged 8 yards per play. It was just domination at the line of scrimmage. And from a defensive line where we saw 22 pressures and 9 sacks, we're all celebrating. But we knew at the moment that was against a very bad Bears offensive line. 6 pressures, 0 sacks from DeMarcus Covington's defense, where he blitzed Matt Stafford 63% of his dropbacks, and Stafford, when blitzed, 12 for 17, 218 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I mean, a lot of that is just a veteran quarterback as opposed to a rookie quarterback last week. A McVay, who you mentioned, is adjusting his way at every step of the way. Here's one thing that I completely agree with you, is the Christian Gonzalez thing. Why wasn't he traveling with at least one of these guys?
Yeah.
Or I'll take a mix and match combo. You know, hey, on this one you're with Kupp, on this one you're with Puka. But I completely agree. You gotta move them around or have them travel with one of those dudes. Because if, let's say, this kid's as good as we think he is, I mean, if he can neutralize a Cooper Kupp, if he can neutralize a Puka Nacua, that could be the difference in the game. Because I'm telling you, that's what I saw. Those 2 studs on the outside were the difference in the game. And that's what it feels like, New England, when you have game changers on the perimeter. They haven't had that around here in years. It's not just right now. I mean, they need that. They need someone who could take over a game. The Rams have 2 of them, and we saw what it looked like.
And it is, even if you think of Matt Stafford's final touchdown pass, the one to Colby Parkinson.
Yep.
Same thing of what the Rams have. And this is roster construction.
Yeah.
This is scheme. And this is players executing, which it takes all 3 to happen. So this is a Elliott Wolf, Alex Van Pelt, and a Jerod Mayo thing here.
Yep.
That touchdown pass to Colby Parkinson, play action, good route by Parkinson, perfectly placed ball by Matt Stafford, and that's them picking on Christian Ellis in pass coverage, who shouldn't be in that situation, but because of injuries is in that spot. And continually, that's a guy that's a special teams core player, playing significant snaps at linebacker because your roster is that bad.
That's right.
But again, it's how far off the Patriots are from a 500 team. The Rams are 5-5.
Yes.
And I'll give them the excuse to make them end of the day, they're 5-5, and they lost to a Dolphins team they shouldn't have, in my opinion. But we just see the difference between the Pats and the Rams. Look, for them to walk away, it's 28-22, and the game comes down to Drake Maye and Demario Douglas being on the same page. Great, but they have to be closer to that. Here's Drake Maye on the interception he threw that ended up deciding the game for the Patriots.
Yeah, it's a too high look, and pops up the middle, and they're pretty good up front, rushing 5, so they'll try to kind of put it on him and kind of hit him over the linebacker. And Pop was thinking probably deep, but at the end of the day, just got to be on the same page. And I think Pop did the right thing. I guess got to just talk through more conversations, and it just goes back to me during the week doing more, talking through different situations. Hey, I may put this one on you versus let it rip. So that's about it.
Now, again, Drake Maye says everything right, and he's right. Pop Douglas did the right thing. If that ball's on target of Pop Douglas, he catches that, that's a long gain, and then all of a sudden they're in Rams territory. And Pop wasn't even looking for the ball when it left Drake Maye's hand. So that shows how off the timing was. Clean pocket for Drake Maye, had time, everything developing deep down the field. So 2 issues is at the play before he takes a coverage sack. So it makes it 4th and 13. And it makes it just like 4th and long on that play. And on that one, everything is so far downfield that when you go to Pop on that one, he shouldn't be the receiver going up for it because of his size, and he's a slot guy. He's short to intermediate. And even if that ball, Pop was ready for it, he's not making the catch because the placement of that was so off as well.
Look, man, I hear you, okay? But the person that needs to be running that route, the person you should be targeting in that moment is not on the roster. So it doesn't matter. But I hear what you're saying. Pop this, Pop that. They're not on the same page. Or he shouldn't have threw the ball. You're not wrong, George. All I'm saying, and why I continue to beat this drum about Nacua, about Kupp, the Patriots have no one anywhere near that. And so even in this situation we're talking about at the end of game, because you don't have that, it doesn't even matter. Put Kendrick Bourne there. put Booty there. It doesn't matter. It's going to have the same result because we don't have the dudes on the perimeter, bro. And clearly, Drake Maye is a gunslinger. I mean, we've seen him now several times.
That was a predetermined throw.
Absolutely. We've seen him at the end of these games. Kid has the stones to take the big shot. Now, that can be coached out of him. I don't know if I necessarily want that. All of us said the same thing.
It was the right play. It was the right read. The ball placement was terrible.
All of us say the same thing about the kid. He's got a little Josh Allen in him. Well, let's keep that, okay? Let's not coach that out of him. Let's get some weapons around this kid. If I'm the Patriots, I'll be honest. I know we're going to talk about this later in the show, but I'm looking at the Rams. They're one of the teams I'm modeling everything after.
Yeah.
They have drafted and developed players. They have rolled the dice in free agency. Remember the Super Bowl they won? They got rid of draft picks. They did all that. They went out. They got free agents. They were a veteran team. They went all in. They pushed all their chips. Traded Jared Goff. Got Matt Stafford in. They pushed all their chips to the center of the table with a veteran team, said future be damned, and they won a Super Bowl. But since they have drafted, they have developed, they're on the right track. They went all in with a young, offensive-minded, say it louder for the people in the back, head coach. And it's paying dividends still. They mortgaged the future, and they're still just fine.
Yeah.
I think they're going to make the playoffs this season in the NFC. So if I'm the Patriots, that's really the way you do it. Now, you got lucky here. You hit the lottery, and you have a young quarterback. You don't have to go acquire a veteran Matt Stafford caliber of quarterback. You have one. Build around him, develop, make some key moves in free agency. My humble opinion, get an offensive-minded head coach and move forward. We'll see what happens, but the Patriots losing this game, if I'm the Patriots, front office, coaching staff, ownership, everyone should be looking at the Rams as a blueprint.
Well, I'm not going to look down the road because we've been doing that. The issues I have with this team is it's 4th and goal from the Rams 2, and you settle for the field goal. But also after running the ball twice, you're not putting the ball, and you have to have it at that point situation. You are down 2 scores. You need to have it, and you took the ball out of your best player's hand twice. When you do, you're going to kick a field goal. That's predetermined. That's fine. Give Drake Maye a shot. Then it goes to where it's 4th and inches. You go pistol. You try to do some window dressing, maybe draw him off sides, and Jalen Polk gets a false start, pushes him back, and again, you just get rid of an opportune. And when I talk about that throw is because it's the right route by Pop Douglas. It's the right decision by Drake Maye, but the ball is off. Now, even if they're on the same page, Pop Douglas isn't catching that. It's 3rd and 13. Why is everything downfield? The timeouts aren't on your side. The clock is not on your side, but give that outlet for your quarterback even. Where there's flaws in the roster. We all know that, and we know it at this point. But in a 28-22 loss, it's the margins that made the difference, where the Patriots could have won this game, where it's the flaws on the roster while you're targeting Pop Douglas downfield. It's the flaws in the scheme. You don't have an outlet for your quarterback. And it's the mistakes when you're putting so much on a rookie quarterback's back.
That's right.
Where he determines the outcome. Every single play rests in his hand. He's going to be great. Drake Maye checks every box. His off-platform throws, especially early in the game, were fantastic. He puts that ball on location of Pop Douglas. We could be having a very different conversation here. It's a good thing that the Patriots walk away from this where we're talking about this interception and how that we feel like it determined the outcome of the game. That's a team that's close, but they still feel so far away because it comes down to a rookie quarterback where a coaching staff is not setting him up for success still. We've been saying it week 4. We've been saying it week 6. And now we're 11 weeks into the season and we're still saying it, Trav.
I agree. Listen, I also think, and we saw this from Drake Maye at UNC when he did have time, which was rare. I mean, this kid has such an arm, George.
Yeah.
He wants those chunk plays. He wants those splashy plays. It's just he doesn't have that personnel here. He didn't have it at UNC. He doesn't have it here either. Now it can change here, but think about this. I mean, if defensively, schematically, if you're playing the Patriots, of course you're putting everyone up in the box. We got to shut down the run. We have to spy this kid who can run and make sure he doesn't get loose on us. Take away the middle of the field because all they have is a bunch of slot guys, and they can't throw it. They can't beat us deep.
Yeah.
They can't take the top off. And listen, at the end of the games here, with everything on the line, the kid wants the glory. He wants to take these shots. I believe there's probably real estate in a lot of these situations down the field for him, but it's just not. This is why I continue to go back to personnel. Some of it's, obviously Drake. Don't make that throw.
It's the point. Like, we're 11 games into the season. This personnel.
It's not going to change.
We gave them until the deadline. We gave them before the deadline to change it. And it's when you know what it is, the personnel, that's when it's on the coaches.
That's right.
What it goes.
That's right.
The GM gives you the ingredients.
Yes.
The head coach's job is to take those ingredients and make it into an actual recipe, an actual meal.
That's right.
The GM gives you the players. It's your job to develop and put them and fit your scheme around them to find success. Coaching staff is still not doing its bargain. Now, the GM failed him, Trav. Like, I get what you're saying.
He did.
But it's 11 games in.
Yeah.
It's the personnel is the personnel.
It's not going to change.
Needs to be better from the coaching staff.
I actually thought Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry had decent enough games.
They've been great. The tight end position has been fine.
I thought they should have got more targets, though. It's where I'm going. Right?
Yeah.
It's almost... I don't know if it's as cliche as take what the defense gives you because, again, I think it's tough sledding there. I think short yardage, intermediate routes is probably tough sledding because of the way these defenses are defending this putrid offense. But, I mean, with both tight ends having decent games and this game being as close as it was, I thought you could maybe get away with a little more two tight end sets. Let's get these guys cooking. And then it almost helps you set up that shot down the field. But, that's woulda, coulda, shoulda. And for once, I'm not being too hard on Alex Van Pelt. I have seen some improvements in these recent weeks, we'll call it offensively. We're still not where I want to be creatively. I still want to see more design runs for Drake Maye. I'm not getting any of those. I'm seeing him run, but it's like he's making that choice. He's tucking and running.
Yeah.
I want to see more design runs for Drake Maye. I even think he could be a little more protected with design runs. If you design a run for him to get out of bounds, or you design a run and you tell him, hey, get down, protect yourself, I think that helps a Drake Maye development, but that's just me.
No, I want to see those too.
I did appreciate that Alex Van Pelt, I thought, had more of a commitment, and really in the past few weeks, but in this game in particular, more of a commitment to the run. I understand Ramondre didn't break the 100 yards mark, and that's okay. He had 20 carries for 73 yards. At least I saw a commitment there, and the time of possession was also there, which I don't think is a coinky-dink. So Alex Van Pelt is getting a little incrementally better week by week, but he's still not where I want him to be.
Again, that Vidarian Lowe touchdown. Great play design, smart,
absolutely
good play call.
Got to give him credit.
It made it 28-19 when executed.
Yeah.
That is a still a two-possession game.
Eligible receiver.
But you know when you need that though?
What?
When it's 21-10.
Yeah.
And it's 3rd and goal from the Rams too.
And then
that's when you call that. And then all of a sudden, look, it's 21-7, 17. Yeah. And the momentum of the game is very different. Why are you saying this team is so bad they can't play and save those if we're in it late in the game? No, you have to steal games.
That's right.
And that's where they need to get better. Hey, you want to hear all about Boston sports? Check out NESN's daily sports podcast. Boston has entered the chat. You can enter the conversation by calling the NESN Vodcast hotline 617-790-0928. Leave a voicemail or email the chat at NESN.com. That's Boston has entered the chat. Available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever else podcasts are found. All right, he's Sean McGuire of NESN.com.
Yeah.
He joins the Foxborough Rush, the chat from Gillette Stadium. Sean McGuire, before I try to say any more, and I clearly can't pronounce it, how we doing, my man?
I'm good, George. How are you?
Doing better now that you're on the show. All right, 28-22 the final. You were spending time in the Rams locker room. I would love to hear this because the biggest question is, what was DeMarcus Covington thinking blitzing at the clip he did where Matt Stafford ate him alive? Again, they were getting no pressure, so the defensive line needs it. More importantly, what was DeMarcus Covington thinking with Christian Gonzalez? I don't want to hear from DeMarcus Covington. What were the Rams saying about the questionable usage of Christian Gonzalez to cover Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, I mean, that was my biggest takeaway from the game in general is just, I think, DeMarcus Covington, I guess, in general. And it came down to, it's a head scratching thing. I mean, why do me, you, and Travis sit here right now and think that Christian Gonzalez should have been on one of the top 2 receivers?
Yes.
Or like Travis said earlier, kind of a mix and match, a rotation, whatever.
Yeah.
But he's not on either. I mean, he's covering Demarcus Robinson on the boundary. Demarcus Robinson had 2 catches for 19 yards. So they did a great job, holding him at bay. They didn't let him change the game or anything. But the 2 best players on the team and 2 of the best receivers in the league, went off. And you have your best player just playing the boundary. It didn't make any sense. And so I did. I talked to Puka Nacua about it afterwards and kind of just said, what did you make of this? Did you expect to see more matchups against Christian Gonzalez? And he said, we expected to see man. There wasn't a ton of man opportunities. And when they did have man opportunities, the Rams and, McVay dialed up a play to beat it. But it was certainly confusing, perplexing. I don't know. I guess those are probably the best words to call it, confusing and perplexing. I would say the worst is game costing, right? It was a game to me. It was a game costing decision by this coaching staff. And Jerod came out and he kind of defended the decision. He said, he thought it was what was best for the team. He was asked a follow up about, do you regret it? Do you wish you did it differently? And he's like, no, I think his quote was that he thought that they could outlast the Rams. And I'm just thinking in my head, what have you seen through 10, 11 weeks at this point that makes you think you can outlast an offense like that? So kind of a roundabout way to answer your question, George, but we are just as surprised as the Rams locker room, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
I'm in such a good mood, Esmeezy, until that. Here I am taking this as a moral victory. They hung in there with the Rams. It's clear they're not on that same caliber. And then he answers questions like that. It just drives me nuts. Yeah. Look, you got the internet going nuts. I saw on your Twitter you had quotes from Sean McVay and from Matt Stafford, both complimenting Drake Maye. Tell us everything.
Yeah, so they're both great, and I can kind of just read you a quick snippet of it. This is from Stafford on May, a really talented player. I've watched a little bit of crossover tape just from the games. Really talented kid, obviously. He can move well in the pocket. He's got a bright future. Stafford actually was then asked to follow up about May as well, and I thought he gave even a better response. And I don't need to read you the whole quote, but essentially he just says, Drake Maye has all the talent in the world, and he doesn't love how these rookie quarterbacks are judged on a week-to-week basis. And, he kind of said, he's like, I'm against that, because if someone was judging me on a week-to-week basis my rookie year, I would have been wrote off a long time ago. So I thought that was kind of, an interesting and really insightful way of looking at it. And McVay raved about Drake Maye, and he, kind of made a little bit of a joke about, I didn't need to do too much film study on him coming out because they were never going to be able to draft him. But he called him a stud. He said that everything he's heard about him from coaches around the league is, really great. And you can kind of just, this is McVay's words, you can kind of just see, how he leads a team, how he leads teammates, that he really has that quality in him.
Yeah, he's one of the best head coaches in the game, and for him to make those comments about Drake Maye, he's right. The kid, his off-platform throws, what he was doing with the pressure, a Rams defensive line that absolutely dominated the game. The Rams dominated line of scrimmage on both sides, but just kept Drake Maye. Now, some were coverage sacks, some were bad times where he's holding on to the ball too long. Others were them exposing Ben Brown and Michael Jordan, still being your starting center and left guard, which no good team in the NFL would have that happening to them. You brought up what Jerod Mayo said about the coverage. We're going to run that right here, and I'd like to hear your reaction to it a little more, Sean and Travis. Play that clip by Jerod Mayo on the usage of Christian Gonzalez.
I don't know. Look, Kupp had the one reception, which was a huge chunk of those yards. Look, going into the game, we have a plan, and we're always willing to change that plan. Like I said earlier, I felt like, we're going to be okay. Thought we could outlast them.
Going into a game, we have that plan. We're willing to change that plan. You didn't change the plan because let's say you live with Cooper Kupp on that long catch. That's fine. He had 6 catches for 106 yards.
Right.
Take off 69 yards, and that's what he did the rest of the game. But if you eliminate that Puka Nacua 123 and a score, Puka Nacua, who is constantly moving the chains for them consistently as well, that's when it's different. That's what the difference maker is in all this. You can live with the Kupp score. You can live with that long score.
Yes.
That is other guy gets paid, best versus best, Stafford against the blitz, Cooper Kupp against our secondary.
Yep.
But just for him to say, we go into the game plan, we're willing to change it, there was no change. He was dominating the blitz, and they were just dominating, throwing away from Christian Gonzalez to their two best guys. And that's what the tough part is. When you looked at this, Sean, we also saw the pass rush go back to what it is. 6 pressures, 0 sacks after 22 pressures and 9 sacks. There still is a question marks around this coaching staff. What did this game leave you with an impression on the Patriots coaching staff?
Yeah, I think I have to break it down into defensive and offensive, because I think they were pretty drastically different today. And what Jerod, what Jerod said about, I don't think it's a big deal if they enter with the game plan to have Gonzalez on the boundary. I mean, they did the same thing last week. It worked out. I mean, they shut the Bears down while having a similar sort of scheme. But once you see McVay rotate his best players out of that side, so
some pre-snap motion at the snap,
exactly.
Adjustments.
You have to adjust to the adjustment, and it's crazy that we're sitting here and it just didn't happen. So I think the defensive coaching staff, I think the defense in general took a step back today, like a pretty noticeable step back, I think. And this goes beyond, the missed tackles and those sorts of things. Like those are on the player without a doubt. But, when you talk about they got gashed for, I think it was like 5.5 on the ground.
Yep.
You talk about the Christian Gonzalez thing. I mean, that was a huge thing. I think it was Taki who was on Cooper Kupp on one of those goal line touchdowns. I mean, so it's just like these scheme things are just they didn't make any sense. And then the opposite side of the ball, I don't want to say it's a perfect game from Alex Van Pelt. It obviously was not that. No. But I think it's fair to say, we've taken shots at him, rightfully so, over the first 10, 11 weeks. And I think today you can kind of say, he had a better day. He did. Yeah. The Vidarian Lowe touchdown, I know you guys talked about earlier. I thought that was great. I mean, something as simple as just the pre-snap motion and the pre-snap movement. I mean, we saw more of that. I feel like we saw more of that today than we've seen all season at this point. And, you're going against the Rams, so it's kind of just like one of those things that it sticks out. Like, they're clearly doing it, so it's nice to see that you're doing it as well. And then there was even the Marcus Jones thing, getting him the ball on offense, getting him. I think he had a few different snaps. One was like more of a decoy, if I remember correct, and then he had one other run. So just those things. And I shouldn't forget this. Drake Maye Jerod came out last week and said that nobody deserves more credit for Drake Maye's improvement and development than Alex Van Pelt. And Drake Maye looked good today. He had the best first quarter since Tom Brady was in New England. I mean, he did. He just completed, 30 of 40 passes. It felt like he was in control, in rhythm. So, again, kind of a long way to answer your question, but I think the offensive coaching staff took a step forward. I think they improved. I cannot say the same thing about the defensive coaching.
I completely agree, S. Mizzle. I mean, we said earlier in the show, I don't even like giving Alex Van Pelt any credit, but I've been giving him credit not only for this game, but in recent weeks, I've seen an improvement in play calling. And I also agree with you about Drake Maye. Listen, maybe it's because I still have Paul and Tyson on the brain, such a bad fight, but it felt like Drake Maye stood in the center of the ring with Matthew Stafford and was throwing haymakers right with him. But Stafford has a better support staff. I want to ask you about Jerod Mayo, though, because I'm still trying to figure out for the life of me, what is the identity of this head coach? S. Mizzle. He's a defensive dude. He played on defense at a high level.
Sucks.
He's supposed to be a defensive guru. And as you said, where are the adjustments? What's going on? I don't understand. We always say these teams take on their identity of their head coaches. I do see a certain toughness here with the Patriots. But the defensive adjustments or lack thereof, I mean, how in the hell do we give him credit for that? You got to blame him for that is the way I see it. What does Jerod Mayo do well? Because, again, I'm not trying to be funny. Last week, they went against a moron of a head coach, and clearly he outcoached him. But then this week, this is an elite head coach we're dealing with here, and he looked over his skis. What does he do well? What does he bring to the table? What would you say is his identity? Because I can't figure it out.
I think I would – this isn't exactly what he does well, but I think his identity right now is that he's inconsistent. And I think that the Patriots as a team, as a football team, they're very inconsistent.
That's
fair. They can't string games together. And when you talk about Jerod, I mean, silly stuff like, saying one thing and then the next, we're a soft football team. Oh, actually, I didn't mean that. I meant we're playing soft. And I mean, that's one of the, is there a dozen examples at this point of him saying something and then walking it back the next day? Yes. I mean, that's an aspect of inconsistency. Then, when you do look on the field, they're good. The defense is good one week. Last week they stopped the run. They looked good. And then this week they gave up 5.5 yards a carry. So it's just, I think they're like in more ways than one. I think he's inconsistent. I mean, and then you talk about a lot of the aggressiveness, or I guess lack of aggressiveness. I mean, he'll go for 2 in London, and then a similar situation today happens and he doesn't go for 2. And it's just, it's a very inconsistent, everything about it, I think.
Yeah. And as Trav, everything you point out, when it boils down to Sean McVay's specialties is offense, Jerod Mayo's specialty is defense. And Jerod Mayo has said, whatever side of the ball is on the field, he flips his channel to that to hear everything that's going on. A head coach, that's when you get in your DC's ear and go, move Gonzalez inside. He's Sean McGuire of NESN.com. Make sure to catch his full coverage of this Patriots game and everything Patriots over on NESN. Sean, appreciate you taking the time, my man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
If you're enjoying this interview and you're enjoying this episode of Foxborough Rush, make sure to catch new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have guests joining the show every day of the week, as you guys heard and saw right there. Every post-game show on the Monday morning episode, we have a guest. Wednesdays, Keegan Stiefel stops by to talk NFL draft to Travis and I. And Fridays, we have the Michael Lombardi, former NFL exec, front office exec, stopping by the show. That's Foxborough Rush. Wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you watch them as well. If you're on NESN's YouTube page, hit the subscribe button as well. So, Trav, this is where I like to take it back to you talk about the roster.
Yes.
And to the point you're making, where are the dudes, where are the winners on the outside? You know where it wasn't as it was on this roster. It wasn't with Tyquan Thornton.
No.
But bringing Christian Barmore back, he played 19 snaps and lost to the Rams. Awesome to eat. I am astonished he was active this quick. The fact that he's back to football activities is such an awesome sign. The fact that Christian Barmore is okay is such an awesome sign as he returned from blood clots. To bring Christian Barmore onto the roster, Tyquan Thornton was cut. The infamous 50th overall pick of the 2022 draft. You can credit Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick for that one. Matt Patricia, in charge of the offense, wants someone that can stretch a field. For whatever reason, that is the guy he identified. And because Bill Belichick can't scout wide receivers, that's the one they picked. Once Tyquan Thornton was given his papers and was released by the team, 3 players are currently on the active roster from the 2021 and 2022 draft. Christian Barmore, Ramondre Stevenson, Marcus Jones.
That's crazy.
The only other player on the roster or in the building is Cole Strange, who's currently on the physically unable to perform list. Again, just a reminder of Bill the GM and the work he has done to put this roster in the place that it is. And that's why when we are looking at a Cooper Kupp, who is a 4th-round pick, and Puka Nacua, who is a 5th-round pick, combine and do what they do. And we're saying, where are these guys for the Patriots? 2021, Mac Jones, Barmore, Ronnie Perkins, Ramondre Stevenson. 2022, Cole Strange, Tyquan Thornton, Marcus Jones. After that, Jack Jones, Pierre Strong, Bailey Zappi, Kevin Harris. Not good. And even 2023, Jake Andrews hasn't been healthy. Chad Ryland, cut. Sidney So, benched. Antonio Mafi, cut. Keyshawn Boutte, Bryce Baringer, Pop Douglas. The last 3 picks of that draft all have been gems, or 3 really late draft picks. You give that credit to Belichick, but it's going to take a while for this roster to be close to what the Rams have.
I ain't going to lie to you. I don't know if I'd use the word gems for them either.
I would for Pop. I would for Pop. Bryce Baringer's a good punter, and that matters.
I do understand that, everybody blames Bill, and I get it. But I told you this from the beginning, too, that Elliott Wolf, it's not like, he wasn't here.
He's been with the team for 5 years.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it was in a different capacity, and we know Bill was the alpha and the omega, so ultimately it is on Bill. But Elliott Wolf, my personal opinion, it feels like this guy has failed up. And I'm going to tell you something, George. The draft classes from him, this last one in particular, ain't much better. I mean, And you and I have argued back and forth. We don't need to even go down here and get off track here. But I am not giving him the same credit that you and others do for the Drake Maye pick. That was Captain Obvious.
Oh, I do not give him credit.
Okay, good.
Easiest pick to make.
If anything, he just didn't get in his own way and overthink the room, right?
Yes.
So then we're on the same page because I'm looking at that draft class and I'm like, bro, I mean, this is Bill Belichick all over again. What the hell are we getting out of now? To be fair, you have to give it more time. If Polk is as good as you tell me, and some of these guys sort of maybe just take some time and they need some seasoning and some development, okay, fine. But from what I've seen right now, the current draft class is trash, okay, outside of Drake Maye. So it's easy to look back with this Taekwondo move and say, oh, look at these draft classes. Cool, but this current one we're dealing with ain't helping you much either. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any faith that things are going to change around here in terms of these draft classes, George, if Elliott Wolf is the guy pulling the trigger on him. I still don't have any faith, George. And I know Bill Belichick towards the end was a big bad wolf, but I pun intended, because I have no faith in the current wolf running the show either, my friend.
To give the comparison, what we saw Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp do.
Yes.
Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, the two wide receivers drafted. 36 snaps, 0 targets.
Oh.
Negative play, like net negative. Javon Baker, bad kick return. Jalen Polk on 4th and 1, which is really like 4th and a half yard. Key down, where they're trying pre-snap motion and throw this defense off. He gets a false start penalty, knocks him back 5 yards.
Kills you.
And it's just, and even in that one, like Drake Maye was asked, like, was it noisy? And he did tell the crowd to quiet down. He walked over. It looked like they were trying to do the decoy. Might have been like a direct snap to a running back, what they were lining up for.
Sure.
We wouldn't know, because Jalen Polk, it's the lack of execution.
Yep.
And it's a trickle down from the head coach
down
onto the team on the field. And to your point, too, on the Elliott Wolf front, I mean, he was their director of scouting, consultant in 2020, director of scouting 2022.
That's all I'm saying.
2022 draft, man. I mean, that's when they take a Tyquan Thornton. That's when they take the other guys that I've named. All those picks. It's that 2022 draft alone that gets me. Cole Strange, pup, Tyquan Thornton, cut. Marcus Jones, good, starter. Jack Jones, Pierre Strong, Bailey Zappi, no longer on the team. Kevin Harris, never amounted to anything with the Patriots.
Waste.
It's
waste. It's no excuse, George. That's what you're looking for. It's no excuses. And the thing is, from where I sit, why would you go into yet another draft with him running it?
Hey,
why?
The Crafts are trying to have him prove himself on the job. They didn't give it to him after the draft, which made no sense.
Right,
but that's
again
point. What do the Rams do with their personnel? They hit on these gems.
Yeah.
What did the Commanders do? Is they've had their team that's ahead of schedule.
Yeah, they are.
They picked from the 49ers personnel coaching tree.
Yep.
What do the Texans do well? Well, they have Nick Caserio, who's here and then left and got great. It's why keep certain things in-house, like the head coach, like the defensive coordinator, like the head of your personnel department as well.
Absolutely.
Hey, make sure to check out all episodes of NESN Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, but also new episodes of Foxborough Rush every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Available on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Prime as well. Please like, subscribe, download, rate, and review. And you can follow the show on Facebook, NESN's YouTube page, and Twitch as well. If you're on NESN's YouTube page and you're watching, do us a favor after the show, hit the subscribe button as well. Trav, the question is now, man, I mean, they're 3-8 at Miami. Home against the Colts, then the bye. You think they win either of those games? Yeah.
Well, listen, they're definitely not winning Miami. I told you.
I don't think so.
This Miami team means business. I think they're going to get a wild card.
Nah.
I know you don't believe it, but I've been telling you. I guess the Colts is a coin flip game. From what we watched this week, it appears as though Anthony Richardson, benching him might have been the right move. I didn't love it at the time. Flacco came in and stunk up the joint. I thought the Colts were smart to go back to the kid. And I'm going to tell you, against the Jets, he looked damn good, man. You have one more game. the Colts do before it's the New England game, and it just so happens to be the Lions. So, listen, it's actually a really good spot to be in if you're the Patriots.
Yeah, that Lions hangover could help the Pats get the fourth win of the season.
And I think you're going to put Anthony Richardson in a spot, George, where you're down big and you got to throw yourself back into a game. So I think we'll see if, what we saw against the Jets is here to stay, or is this kid going to be inconsistent?
Yeah.
Or is it all smoke and mirrors, right?
Yeah.
So I think advantage Patriots there. I give a 0% chance of beating the Dolphins. I think that team's hotter than fish grease, and I think they see the Patriots on the schedule, and they're like, yes, thank you. We can keep this momentum cooking. I think the Pats are in trouble. Maybe the Colts are a coin flip. We'll have a better feel depending on how how Anthony Richardson looks against the Lions.
Yeah, man. Hey, Bills beat the Chiefs 30-21.
Yep.
Chiefs get their first loss.
Yep.
We saw the Broncos blow out the Falcons. They own that 7th spot in the standings to get into the playoffs as well.
Huh?
We'll see it now, bro. Come on. Now. Anthony Richardson, 20 for 30.
Yeah.
272 yards and a touchdown.
Yes.
I'm interested what the Colts' game plan will be against the Patriots, because from what we saw what the Rams did, owning the line of scrimmage, between Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, just run the ball 45 times.
Yeah, bro.
And this defense will be able to get a stop. You're going to put it in AR5's hand.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do with him? Legs or arm? And that's where, if you're the Colts, you got to show up and win the game and take your time with his development. And if you win a game, but it's all on his legs, it's a win in the NFL. Colts are 5-6, currently in the 8th spot, AFC standings.
By the way,
the AFC's a mess.
You gave us passing. He ran for 2, and he was running over cats.
Yeah.
So to your point, if they run him and Taylor against the Patriots, it could be lights out. Look, I'm not saying they're going to beat the Lions, but hell,
they don't.
That should be the formula against the Lions.
Yep, keep them off the field.
Run those two monsters. Try to keep that offense off the field.
All right, he's Travis Thomas. I'm George Balekji. This is Foxborough Rush. Appreciate you guys making us a part of your day. Enjoy your Monday, rest of the week. New episode Wednesday, new episode Friday. Make sure to catch us there. He's Double TM GB. We'll see you guys then.